What a week. I've got to change things up, so you're in for a little surprise.
And in my mother's womb was fashioned to be flesh in the time of 10 months, being compacted in blood of the seed of man.
That's right.
Of the seed of man.
The word seed is sperm, and sperm comes through having sex. It's shut out of your father's rod. Right. Put it in layman terms, in his penis. That's right. That means a man put his penis in a woman and bust off in it.
Then the angel said to him, "Take out the entrails of this fish, and lay up his heart and his gall and his liver for thee. For these are necessary for useful medicines."
The rest of the chapters of the book of Esther,
go ahead,
which are found neither in the Hebrew nor in the Chaldee.
Greetings, fellow worker slaves, podcasting at 128 kilobits from the Fortress of Squalitude. This is the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. I'm your host, Tucker. Professor Fuzznuts is busy chasing buttons around the house. Yes, it's a podcast hosted by a guy and his cat. Get over it. And as you could tell by the intro music, this is going to be an Apocrypha episode instead of a news episode. I had a busy weekend, as well as I was sick this weekend, so I did not get a chance to put the news episode together, and in order to get something out today, you're going to get some Apocrypha, because Skullbeard and I had recorded that when we did our marathon recording session during the week I was off. I will attempt... Well, let me strike that. I will be putting out a news episode later on this week. And as always, Patreon supporters, that's a freebie on me. But I didn't want to go too long between putting out episodes, since I'm not entirely sure when I will be able to put that news episode together. Probably I'll wind up doing it on Thanksgiving, since I won't be doing anything else that day. But it is 9:30 in the morning. I have gotten home from work, tired, so I'm not going to blather on too much, and we're just going to go right into the Apocrypha with me and Skullbeard. Howdy.
Hey, Tucker. Oh, am I not a video chat?
No.
Wait a minute. Come on. I don't know, Twitter made me, or not Twitter, Skype made me update for some reason.
Yeah, it's good about that.
Oh, okay, great, thanks.
Yeah,
Okay, before we start, I gotta say, holy fuck, what a night.
Yeah?
We had like 8 inches of snow last week, and today it warmed up to just above freezing and melted everything off the road. Well, not everything. There's a thin veneer of ice. And then, all of the water that had sublimated into the atmosphere, because we had no wind, which is really odd, condensed into ice fog. And so I spent 6 hours driving around in circles on glare ice in thick fucking fog. So I'm just like fried. Frazzled.
I can imagine.
Oh, it's brutal in new and different ways. Wait a minute. Why do I have 2 of you up here? Why am I not there? I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Let's do this thing. Maccabees 9. And it ends at 16. Think we can bang out 7 of them?
We might.
I gotta say, this is the densest shit I've ever read. It's so poorly written, I can't keep up with who is killing who. Gee, I don't know what other commentary I can add to this thing.
I know. You're as lost as I am. Yeah. Yeah, because it all blends together and everything else, and
there's a lot of killing with swords and burning with fire and pillaging and wenches. No, wait, not wenches. Concubines?
Yeah, maybe. I just... Did we stop at 9? I thought we stopped at 6. I could be wrong.
Well, I left it... howbeit if after the one party of the other shall to meet... No, we read more than 6.
Okay.
Now Judas had heard of the Romans that they were mighty and valiant men, and... Does any of this sound familiar?
Yeah, vaguely. But then again, this thing could repeat. Actually, let me do the simple thing here. Yeah, well, it has to be 9 because 8 is the first instance where the Romans are mentioned, and I remember us talking about the Romans.
Mm-hmm.
Because we kind of didn't buy their whole, tales they were telling about the Romans. So.
This is crazy shit.
Yeah.
Have you edited any of the stuff that we've done so far?
No,
Okay, good.
I haven't. I was going to do a bunch of stuff today, but I was asleep, or, I woke up and I was tired, so I did a few things, and then I'm like, I'm going back to bed, and just laid in the bed, couldn't really sleep, wasn't really awake, and...
Lucky bastard.
Well,
we
can trade paychecks if you'd like.
Oh, I would have great difficulty meeting my commitments if we...
Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh, God. So, boy didn't have school today. He's 17. He can move out any fucking time now. Had no school today, but I had to bring him into town. I had to go pick up my girls at noon. I slept 6 hours? I think I had 6 hours sleep. And then it's run all over the place, take a nap in my car for 3/4 of an hour, and then work. So, I kind of envy your flexibility in your schedule.
Well.
I know, it's not all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah. All right, well, if you're ready to get going on this nightmare.
More of a clusterfuck, no?
Yeah.
Well, no, not a clusterfuck. Gong show?
Yeah, that's not a bad way of putting it.
Alright, I've already pounded 2 beers. This is number 3. And I have bourbon within arm's reach. So once again, because I have a masochistic streak about this fucking wide, Skullbeard the Magnificent is back, hopefully to finish First Maccabees 9. Furthermore, when Demetrius heard that Nicanor and his host were slain in battle, he sent Bacchides and Alcimus into the land of Judea the second time, and with them the chief strength of his host, who went forth by the way that leadeth to Galgala, and pitched their tents before Masaloth, which is in Arbela, and after they had won it, they slew much people. Again with the killing.
Yeah.
Also, the first month of the 152nd year, they encamped before Jerusalem.
From whence they removed and went to Brea, with 20,000 footmen and 2,000 horsemen. Now Judas had pitched his tents at Elysia, and 3,000 chosen men with him, who, seeing the multitude of the other army, to he so great were sore afraid. English? It's not their language, that's for sure. Whereupon many conveyed themselves out of the host, inasmuch as abode of them no more but 800 men. So it sounds like Judas's guys broke and ran, and there's only 800 of them left, and they're going to go up against 22,000 people.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of pitch tents, too.
Yeah.
Which kind of worries me. When Judas therefore saw that his host slipped away, and that the battle pressed upon him, he was sore troubled in mind and much distressed, for that he had no time to gather them together. Nevertheless, unto them that remained he said, Let us arise and go up against our enemies, if, peradventure, we may be able to fight with them. But they dehorted him.
Yeah.
That's a new word. That's a $10 word. I wonder if I can find that in my fucking dictionary. We shall be able. Let us now rather save our lives, and hereafter we will return with our brethren and fight against them, for we are but few. Dehorted. That is a $10 word.
Yeah, I've never heard that. But then Judas said, God forbid that I should do this thing and flee away from them. If our time be come, let us die manfully for our brethren, and let us not stain our honor. With that, the host of Bacchides removed out of their tents and stood over against them, their horsemen being divided into 2 troops, and their slingers and archers going before the host, and they that marched in the forward were all mighty men. As for Bacchides, he was in the right wing, so the host drew near on the 2 parts and sounded their trumpets. This is sounding like the 300.
Do you like books?
Yeah.
Do you like old books?
Yeah.
Dehort. Latin and dehortare, exhort, to urge, to abstain from, to dissuade. And that's from this motherfucker. Can you see that?
No, your camera's still not working.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
I have the King's English Dictionary, and the closest I can do to dating this thing is the picture of His Majesty King George V. So it's a really old dictionary, and it's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
One of my prized possessions. Where are we? 13?
Yep.
They also of Judas's side, even they sounded their trumpets also, so that the earth shook at the noise of the armies, and the battle continued from morning till night. Now when Judas perceived the Bacchides and the strength of his army were on the right side, he took with them all the hardy men, who comforted the right wing, and pursued them unto the Mount Azotus.
All right. But when they of the left wing saw that they of the right wing were discomfited, they followed upon Judas and those that were with him hard at his heels from behind. Whereupon there was a sore battle, insomuch as many were slain on both parts. Judas also was killed, and the remnant fled.
Then Jonathan and Simon took Judas, their brother, and buried him in the sepulchre of his fathers in Modin. Or Modin? I don't know. Moreover, they bewailed him, and all Israel made great lamentation for him, and mourned many days, saying, How is valiant man fallen when delivered Israel.
As for the other things concerning Judas and his wars, and the noble acts which he did, and his greatness, they are not written, for they were very many. Okay, that's a cop-out. Now, after the death of Judas, the wicked began to put forth their heads in all the coasts of Israel, and there rose up all such as wrought iniquity. In those days also was there a very great famine, by reason whereof the country revolted and went with them.
Then Bacchides chose the wicked men and made them lords of the country. And they made inquiry and search for Judas's friends, and brought them unto Bacchides, who took vengeance on them, and used them despitefully. So was there a great affliction in Israel, the like whereof was not since the time that a prophet was not seen among them.
Okay. For this cause all Judas's friends came together and said unto Jonathan, Since thy brother Judas died, we have no man like him to go forth against our enemies, and Bacchides, and against them of our nation that are adversaries to us. Now therefore we have chosen thee this day to be our prince and captain in his stead, that thou mayest fight our battles and die. No, just that last part there. Upon this, Jonathan took the governance upon him at that time, and rose up instead of his brother Judas. Well, actually, I would think that, having Judas rise up from the dead and start fighting would be the way you'd want to handle it if you were God.
Well, yeah, God's kind of fond of zombies. Mm-hmm. The undead.
Yeah, and I mean, that would really scare the shit out of somebody seeing a zombie come at them.
Well, if the World War Z fast movers, I'm fucking done.
Yeah.
If they're like shamblers, walkers, I think I could take them.
Yeah.
For a while, anyway. But when Bacchides gat knowledge thereof, he sought for to slay him. Dude, who writes this shit?
I have no idea.
And Jonathan and Simon his brother and all that were with him, perceiving that, fled into the wilderness of Theco, and pitched their tents by the water of the pool Asphar. I'm going to say Asphar there.
That sounds good to me.
It works.
Yeah.
Pitching their tents by Asphar. Kinky bastards. Bacchides understood he came near to Jordan with all his host upon the Sabbath day. Now Jonathan had sent his brother John, a captain of the people, to pray his friends, the Nabathites, that they might leave with him their carriage, which was much.
But the children of Jambri came out of Madaba and took John and all that he had, and went their way with it. This is getting interesting. After this came word to Jonathan and Simon his brother that the children of Jambri made a great marriage, and were bringing the bride from Nadabatha with a great train, as being the daughter of one of the great princes of Canaan. I guess that would be an archaic spelling for Canaan, I don't know. Therefore, they remembered John their brother, and went up and hid themselves under the covert of the mountain.
I thought the Canaanites got wiped out.
Well, DNA evidence says otherwise, but...
I know, they're alive and well in, what, Syria? Lebanon?
They have that whole region, really.
Pretty much. So much for failed prophecies.
Yeah.
Where they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, there was much ado and great carriage, and the bridegroom came forth, and his friends and brethren, to meet them with drums and instruments of music and many weapons. It's not my kind of party.
Well.
Then Jonathan and they that were with him rose up against them from the place where they lay in ambush, and made a slaughter of them, in such sort as many fell down dead, and the remnant fled into the mountain, and they took all their spoils. Thus the marriage turned into mourning, and the noise of their melody into lamentation.
So,
wow, that's a wedding story.
Yeah. So when they had avenged fully the blood of their brother, they turned again to the marsh of Jordan. Now when Bacchides heard hereof, he came on the Sabbath day unto the banks of Jordan, kinky, with a great power, really kinky. Then Jonathan said to his company, Let us go up now and fight for our lives, for it standeth not with us today as in time past.
For behold, the battle is before us and behind us, and the water of Jordan on this side and that side, the marsh likewise, and wood, neither is there place for us to turn aside. Between a rock and a hard place?
Yeah.
More or less. Wherefore, cry ye now unto heaven, that ye may be delivered from the hands of your enemies. With that they joined battle, and Jonathan stretched forth his hand to smite Bacchides, but he turned back from him.
Then Jonathan and they that were with him leapt into Jordan, and swam over unto the other bank. Howbeit the other passed not over Jordan unto them. That makes no sense. So there were slain of Bacchides' side that day about 1,000 men. Afterward returned Bacchides to Jerusalem, and repaired the strong cities in Judea, the fort in Jericho, and Emmaus, and Bethoron, and Bethel, and Thamanathah, Pharathoni, and Taphon. These he did strengthen with high walls, with gates, and with bars.
Gates and with bars. And in them he set a garrison, that they might work malice upon Israel. He fortified also the city of Bethshura and Gezerah and the tower, and put forces in them, and provisions of victuals. Besides, he took the chief men's sons in the country for hostage, and put them in the tower at Jerusalem to be kept. Oh, this started a long time ago.
Yeah. Moreover, in the 153rd year, in the 2nd month, Alcimus commanded that the wall of the inner court of the sanctuary should be pulled down. Well, that's not really a good idea. He pulled down also the works of the prophets, and as he began to pull down, even at that time was Alcimus plagued, and his enterprises hindered, for his mouth was stopped, and he was taken with a palsy, so that he could no more speak anything, nor give order concerning his house. So it sounds like he has stroke. So Alcimus died at that time with great torment.
Yeah, it does sound like a stroke. Yeah. Now when Bacchides saw that Alcimus was dead, he returned to the king, whereupon the land of Judea was in rest 2 years. Oh, so they took a break.
Yeah.
Then all the ungodly men held a council, saying, Behold, Jonathan and his company are at ease, and dwell without care. Now therefore we will bring Bacchides hither, who shall take them all in one night. Ambitious.
Yeah.
So they went and consulted with him.
Then removed he, and came with a great host, and sent letters privily to his adherents in Judea, that they should take Jonathan and those that were with him, howbeit they could not, because their counsel was known unto them. That makes no sense. Wherefore they took of the men of the country that were authors of that mischief about 50 persons, and slew them. Who took whom and killed them?
I don't know. Somebody took somebody and they killed them.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot of killing in this.
Afterward, Jonathan and Simon and they that were with him got them away to Bethpasi, I don't know, which which is in the wilderness, and they repaired the decays thereof, making it strong. So what, they planted trees?
Sounds like. I don't know. Which thing, when Bacchides knew, he gathered together all his host and sent word to them that were of Judea. Then went he and laid siege against Bethbassi, I'm not sure. And they fought against it a long season and made engines of war. But Jonathan left his brother Simon in the city and went forth himself into the country, and with a certain number went he forth. Okay, so more sieging and pillaging?
Sounds like it. And I just looked up Bethbassi, and it's one of these places that can't exist.
Can't exist?
Can't exist. It.
Are you saying they made it up?
It certainly sounds like it. Okay, I go with 66, right?
I believe so, yes.
And he smote Odonarchs, I don't know, and his brethren, and the children of Phaziron in their tent. Well, who are these people? This is the first we've ever heard of them, and they're now dead.
They just come out of nowhere and kill people in their tents.
They're like
pitch their tents.
And they're like red shirts.
They are.
Yeah.
There seems to be an awful lot of red shirts. Are you keeping track of how many people are dead?
No, probably should have. I'm not going back to reread this to try and figure it out, though, I'll tell you that much.
No, I heartily recommend not doing that.
And when he began to smite them and came up with his forces, Simon and his company went out of the city and burned up the engines of war, and fought against Bacchides, who was discomfited by them, and they afflicted him sore, for his counsel and travail was in vain.
Wherefore he was very wroth at the wicked men, and gave him counsel to come into the country, inasmuch as he slew many of them, and purposed to return into his own country. Whereof, when Jonathan had knowledge, he sent ambassadors unto him, to the end he would make peace with him, and deliver them the prisoners. Which thing he accepted, and did according to his demands, and sware unto him that he would never do him harm all the days of his life. Who is he?
I have no idea. When therefore he had restored unto him the prisoners that he had taken aforetime out of the land of Judea, he returned and went his way into his own land, neither came he any more into their borders. Thus the sword ceased from Israel, but Jonathan dwelt at Machmas, and began to govern the people, and he destroyed the ungodly men out of Israel.
Has it been Jonathan this whole time? It's a whole lot of smiting and shit.
Yeah. A town. The Machmas is a town of Benjamin, 9 miles northeast of Jerusalem. And this one actually appears to have existed at some point, but how big it is, nobody knows. Or was, rather.
Ah, sweet.
Yeah.
Discomfit. This has been bugging me for a while. To scatter in fight. To break up and frustrate the plans of. To throw into perplexity and dejection. Disconcert, defeat, vanquish, rout, overthrow, total defeat. In the 160th year, Alexander, the son of Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, went up and took Ptolemaeus, for the people had received him, by means whereof he reigned there. Now when King Demetrius heard thereof, he gathered together an exceeding great host, and went forth against him to fight. Moreover, Demetrius sent letters unto Jonathan with loving words, so that he magnified him. That sounds kind of vaguely homoerotic. I'm not sure.
For said he, let us first make peace with him before he join with Alexander against us. Else he will remember all the evils that we have done against him and against his brethren and people. Wherefore he gave him authority to gather together an host and to provide weapons that he might aid him in battle. He commanded also that the hostages that were in the tower should be delivered him. So how long have these assholes been locked up in the tower?
I don't know. Last I heard it was 152 years or something.
Yeah, so I guess they've been up there for a while. It's your turn.
All right. Then came Jonathan to Jerusalem and read the letters in the audience of all the people and of them that were in the tower, who were sore afraid when they heard that the king had given him authority to gather together an host. Dude, seriously, an host?
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's not even one of those quirky things that you can sit there and say, well, that's British English and not American English. That's just not English.
Well, it is, but an host?
Yeah,
it's
like an historical. No.
Yes, exactly. Whereupon they of the tower delivered their hostages unto Jonathan, and he delivered them unto their parents.
So who are the people of the tower who are holding hostages? I thought they were Jonathan's folks, or I don't know.
It's really hard to keep track of who's who in there.
Yeah.
Keep introducing new characters all the time. I don't know.
And never fully define any of them. This done, Jonathan settled himself in Jerusalem and began to build and repair the city. Well, wasn't the other guy in Jerusalem?
Oh, I thought it was Jonathan.
No, Jonathan was in some swamp country, and Bacchides was in Jerusalem, is what I thought.
Wait, who got his ass kicked? Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. And he commanded the workmen to build the walls and mount the Sion. Oh, and the Mount Sion. Not Mount the Sion. That really changes the meaning there. And about with square stones for fortifications, and they did so. Well, you certainly wouldn't want to use spherical stones for fortifications.
No, that's more like cannon shot or...
Yeah.
What do they have for engines of war?
They had catapults, trebuchets. They had, I forget the name of it, but it was basically a ginormous crossbow. They never figured out that they could make handheld ones. Ballista, that's what it was. But they made giant ones that would, launch a tree. A spear the size made out of a tree.
Nice.
They had battering rams, and they had towers. And I think that's it. Then the strangers that were in the fortress which Bacchides had built fled away. So it sounds like Bacchides and his people were still in Jerusalem, and they didn't chicken out until Jonathan showed back up and decided to kick some ass.
Insomuch as every man left his place and went into his own country. So they bailed on him?
Sounds like it.
Only at Bethsura, certain of those that had forsaken the law and the commandments remained still, for it was their place of refuge. Now when King Alexander had heard what promises Demetrius had sent unto Jonathan, when also it was told him of the battles and noble acts which he and his brethren had done, and of the pains they had endured.
I have no clue.
16.
Yeah, no, but I just have no clue what that meant.
It's almost like it's Greek or something.
Yeah. He said, "Shall we find such another man? Now, therefore, we will make him our friend and confederate." Upon this he wrote a letter, and sent it unto him according to these words, saying, "King Alexander to his brother Jonathan sendeth greeting."
The postal service was so complicated back then. "We have heard of thee, that thou art a man of great power, and meet to be our friend. Wherefore, now this day we ordain thee to be the high priest of thy nation, and to be called the king's friend. And wherewithal he sent him a purple robe and a crown of gold, and to require thee to take our part, and keep friendship with us. So in the 7th month of the 160th year, at the Feast of the Tabernacles, Jonathan put on the holy robe, and gathered together forces, and provided much armor." Nice.
Yeah. Whereof when Demetrius heard, he was very sorry, and said, "What have we done that Alexander hath prevented us in making enmity with the Jews to strengthen himself? I will also write unto them words of encouragement, and promise them dignities and gifts, that I may have their aid." He sent unto them therefore to this effect, "King Demetrius unto the people of the Jews sendeth greeting."
This is brutal.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, there's no other way to put it. It's brutal. "Whereas ye have kept covenants with us, and continued in our friendship, not joining yourselves with our enemies, we have heard hereof, and are glad. Wherefore now continue ye still to be faithful unto us, and we will well recompense you for the things ye do in our behalf, and will grant you many immunities, and give you rewards." Ooh, they got like a presidential pardon or something going on there?
Yeah. Well, you know...
Kind of sounds familiar.
Yeah. What's his name? The Jewish historian.
Tacitus?
Josephus.
Josephus. Okay.
Yeah. In reading his histories of Israel, right? I could never understand. You hear all the stories about, in fiction, like in Game of Thrones, or even in medieval times in Europe, all these people fighting and trying to take over power of the kingdom, etc., etc. And I could never figure out why the hell everybody was always wanting to kill somebody else. But after reading Josephus's history, I realized if you weren't the king, you were most likely, at any moment, you could be killed by the king. So it was a matter of survival.
Okay, not digging it. Religion appease my ass.
Yeah. "And now I do free you, and for your sake I release all the Jews from tributes, and from the customs of salt," I wonder what those are, "and from crown taxes, and from that which appertaineth unto me to receive for the third part or the seed, and the half of the fruit from the trees. I release it from this day forth, so that they shall not be taken of the land of Judea, nor of the 3 governments which are added thereunto out of the country of Samaria and Galilee, from this day forth forevermore. Let Jerusalem also be holy and free, with the borders thereof, both from tenths and tributes."
What? The fuck is that supposed to mean?
I'm guessing he's just turned him into a tax-free zone.
Oh, okay. Nice. "And as for the tower which is at Jerusalem, I yield up authority over it, and give the high priest that he may set in it such men as he shall choose to keep it. Moreover, I freely set at liberty every one of the Jews that were carried captives out of the land of Judea into any part of my kingdom, and I I will that all my officers remit the tributes even of their castle. Oh, of their cattle. Furthermore, I will that all the feasts and Sabbaths and new moons and solemn days and the 3 days before the feast and the 3 days after the feast shall all be of immunity and freedom for all the Jews in my realm.
So they can get away with murder on those days.
Oh, sounds like a week-long holiday called the Purge.
Yeah. Also, no man shall have authority to meddle with or to molest any of them in any manner. It's the Purge. I will, therefore, that there be enrolled among the king's forces about 30,000 men of the Jews, which would be like all of them, unto whom pay shall be given as belongeth to all king's forces. And of them some shall be placed in the king's strong hands, of whom also shall some be set over the affairs of the kingdom, which are of trust. And I will that their overseers and governors be of themselves, and that they live after their own laws, even as the king hath commanded in the land of Judea. So he's setting them up as a nation within a nation.
I wonder if they have a distinct society clause. And concerning the 3 governments that are added to Judea from the country of Samaria, let them be joined with Judea, that they may be reckoned to be under one, nor bound to obey other authority than the high priests. As for Ptolemaeus and the land pertaining thereto, I give it as a free gift to the sanctuary at Jerusalem for the necessary expenses of the sanctuary. Moreover, I give every year 15,000 shekels of silver out of the king's accounts from the places appertaining.
That's a lot of money.
That's 4/10 of an ounce of silver times 15,000. That's a shit ton of silver.
Yeah. And silver was like around $10 an ounce the last time I checked, so that's in current dollars, that's a good chunk of change. It's not Bill Gates money, but it's nothing to sneeze at. And all of the overplus, is that like double plus?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Which the officers paid not in as in former time, from henceforth shall be given toward the works of the temple.
So this is like a tax, right?
I think it's like the surplus. So instead of having a budget surplus, they're just going to give it to the temple. And besides this, the 5,000 shekels of silver, which they took from the uses of the temple out of the accounts year by year, even those things shall be released, because they appertain to the priests that minister. And whosoever they be that flee unto the temple at Jerusalem, or be within the liberties hereof, being indebted unto the king, or for any other matter, let them be at liberty, and all that they have in my realm.
For the building also and repairing of the works of the sanctuary, expenses shall be given of the king's account. Yea, and for the building of walls of Jerusalem and the fortifying thereof round about, expenses, more fucking roundabouts, Jesus. Expenses shall be given out of the king's accounts, and also for the building of the walls of Judea. Now, what Jonathan and the people heard, when Jonathan and the people heard these words, they gave no credit unto them, nor received them, because they remembered the great evil that he had done in Israel, for he had afflicted them very sore.
But with Alexander they were well pleased, because he was the first that entreated of true peace with them, and they were confederate with him always. Then gathered King Alexander great forces and camped over against Demetrius. And after the 2 kings had joined battle, Demetrius' host fled, but Alexander followed after him and prevailed against him. I thought Demetrius was Jonathan's buddy.
It's hard to keep track. I need a big fucking whiteboard to keep track of all the characters.
Or one of those, where the, board with, tacks and string running around.
Yeah, exactly. Like something out of Dexter or CSI.
Yeah.
50?
That sounds right.
And he continued the battle very sore. Poor guy.
Hemorrhoids.
Until the sun went down, and that day was Demetrius slain. Afterward, Alexander sent ambassadors to Ptolemy, king of Egypt, with a message to this effect: "Forasmuch as I am come again to my realm, and am set in the throne of my progenitors, and have gotten the dominion, and overthrown Demetrius, and recovered our country, for after I have joined battle with him, both he and his host was discomfited by us, so that we sit in the throne of his kingdom.
Now therefore let us make a league of enmity together, and give me now thy daughter to wife, and I will be thy son-in-law, and will give both thee and her as according to thy dignity." Then Ptolemy the king gave answer, saying, "Happy be the day wherein thou didst return into the land of thy fathers, and satest in the I guess it's supposed to be sat in the throne of their kingdom. And now I will do to thee as thou hast written. Meet me therefore at Ptolemais, that we may see one another, for I will marry my daughter to thee according to thy desire."
So Ptolemy went out of Egypt with his daughter Cleopatra. Ooh! We got a date for her?
Yeah,
Oh, that was a bad pun. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And they came unto Ptolemais in the 162nd year. Wait, 162nd? Where King Alexander meeting him. Oh, was this Alexander the Great?
No, this is well after
Cleopatra?
him. This is well after him, because Alexander the Great was 300 BC, and Cleopatra, Caesar died in 60 BCE. So this is,
Am I thinking, Mark Antony? Who did Cleopatra hook up with?
She hooked up first with Julius Caesar, and then she hooked up with Mark Antony. And this is not the same.
Not the same Cleopatra.
Cannot be.
Fuck.
Because this is like 100 years before she would have lived.
Where King Alexander meeting him, he gave unto him his daughter Cleopatra, and celebrated her marriage at Ptolemais with great glory, as the manner of kings is. Now King Alexander had written unto Jonathan that he should come and meet him. Go back, it's a trap.
Yeah.
Seems to happen at every wedding, I don't know.
Yeah.
Who thereupon... Oh.
That one's mine.
Oh, take it.
Who thereupon went honorably to Ptolemais, where he met the two kings, and gave them and their friends silver and gold, and many presents, and found favor in their sight. At that time, certain pestilent fellows of Israel, men of a wicked life, assembled themselves against him to accuse him, but the king would not hear them. Yea, more than that, the king commanded to take off his garments and clothe him in purple, and they did so.
And he made him sit by himself. I hope it was in a corner. And said unto his princes, Go with him into the midst of the city, and make proclamation that no man complain against him of any matter, and that no man trouble him for any matter of cause. Now when his accusers saw that he was honored according to the proclamation, and clothed in purple, they fled all away. Bunch of snowflakes.
Yeah.
So the king honored him and wrote him among his chief friends and made him a duke and partaker of his dominion. Sounds kinky.
Yeah. Afterward, Jonathan returned to Jerusalem with peace and gladness. Furthermore, in the 165th year, so that would be 165 years after Alexander the Great, came Demetrius, son of Demetrius, out of Crete into the land of his fathers. Whereof, when King Alexander heard tell, he was right sorry, and returned into Antioch. Did he bring the holy hand grenade with him?
I certainly hope so. Then Demetrius made Apollonius the governor of... Hey, is he dateable? The governor of Syria, his general. He gathered together a great host and camped at Jamni, and sent unto Jonathan the high priest, saying, Thou alone liftest up thyself against us, and I am laughed to scorn for thy sake and reproached. And why dost thou vaunt thy power against us in the mountains? Now therefore, if thou trusteth in thine own strength, come down to us into the plain field, and there let us try the matter together, for with me is the power of the cities.
It's a trap.
It's totally a trap.
Never give up the high ground. Never give up the high ground.
No, you got the air superiority. You're good. You're done.
Ask and learn who I am, and the rest that take our part, and they shall tell thee that thy foot is not able to flight in their own land. I have no idea if that's what it says.
It's got to be a typo.
Yeah. Wherefore now thou shalt not be able to abide the horsemen, and so great a power in the plain, where is neither stone nor flint nor place to flee unto. So when Jonathan heard these words of Apollonius, he was moved in his mind, and choosing 10,000 men, he went out of Jerusalem, where Simon his brother met him for to help him.
So when you choose 10,000 men, is that like a... what's that thing they had in the States? Bone spurs will get you out of it. The draft.
Yes, the draft.
Okay. And he pitched his tents against Joppa. But they of Joppa shut him out of the city because Apollonius had a garrison there. Then Jonathan laid siege unto it. Oh, is that what the kids are calling it these days? Whereupon they of the city let him in for fear. Oh, so it was a little more rapey. And so Jonathan won Joppa. Whereof, when Apollonius heard, he took 3,000 horsemen with a great host of footmen, and went to Azotus as one that journeyed, and therewithal drew him forth into the plain, because he had a great number of horsemen in whom he put his trust.
Then Jonathan followed after him to Azotus, where the armies joined battle. Now Apollonius had left 1,000 horsemen in ambush. It's a trap! And Jonathan knew that there was an ambushment behind him, for they had compassed his host, in his host. Kinky. And cast darts at the people from morning till evening.
But the people stood still as Jonathan had commanded them, and so the enemy's horses were tired. Then brought Simon forth his host, and set them against the footmen, for the horsemen were spent. It was a rough night.
Yeah.
So were discomfited by him and fled. The horsemen also, being scattered in the field, fled to Azotus, and went into Beth Dagon, their idol's temple, for safety.
What the hell is a Beth Dagon?
I don't know. That's the first time it's come up. There's a Beth this, and a Beth that, and a Beth something else.
It's a city. Huh. I thought it was like a god or something, you know. But apparently not.
That Dagon, their idol's temple.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But it's a city. But Jonathan set fire on Azotus and the cities round about it, again with them, and took their spoils and the temple of Dagon. Now that one name I'm familiar with. That's a Babylonian figure, if I'm not mistaken. With them that were fled into it, he burned with fire. Thus there were burned and slain with the sword well nigh 8,000 men. And from thence Jonathan removed his host and camped against Ascalon, where the men of the city came forth and met him with great pomp.
That sounds really kinky. After this returned Jonathan and his host into Jerusalem, having any spoils. Now when King Alexander heard these things, he honored Jonathan yet more, and sent him a buckle of gold, as the use is to be given to such as are of the king's blood. He gave him also Acheron, with the borders thereof in possession. Yeah, it sounds like a decent gift.
Yeah.
What's a buckle of gold worth?
Well, it depends on if you're the heavyweight champion of the world or not.
Oh, one of them belts. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Let me refill my drink, and then we'll go to 11 if you're still up for it.
How long is 11? 74. I can do this. Might need another beer. Definitely need to empty my bladder.
All right.
And the king of Egypt gathered together a great host, like the sand that lieth upon the seashore, and many ships, and went about through deceit to get Alexander's kingdom and join it to his own. Whereupon he took his journey into Spain in peaceable manner, so as they of the cities opened unto him and met him, for King Alexander had commanded them so to do. Fuck. These guys really need to take an English class. Because he was his brother-in-law. Now, Ptolemy entered into the cities. He set in every one of them a garrison of soldiers to keep it.
And when he came near to Azotus, they shewed him the temple of Dagon that was burnt, and Azotus and the suburbs thereof that were destroyed, and the bodies that were cast abroad, and them that had burnt, and them that he had burnt in the battle, for they had made heaps of them by the way where he should pass. Also, they told the king whatsoever Jonathan had done, to the intent he might blame them. But the king held his peace.
Freezing.
Exactly. Then Jonathan met the king with great pomp at Joppa, where they saluted one another and lodged.
Afterward, Jonathan, who had gone with the king to the river called Eleutherus, returned again to Jerusalem. King Ptolemy, therefore, having gotten the dominion of the cities by the sea unto Seleucia, upon the sea coast, imagined wicked counsel against Alexander, whereupon he sent ambassadors unto King Demetrius, saying, Come, let us make a league betwixt us, and I will give thee my daughter whom Alexander hath, and thou shalt reign in thy father's kingdom.
Now, I don't understand this, okay? Because it says he went to Spain, okay? Joppa is in Israel, on the opposite side of the Mediterranean.
Maybe they got lost.
Why the hell would you go to Spain to go to Israel?
They're taking a long way around? The scenic...
Yeah, it must be. I don't know.
Jesus is my GPS.
For I repent that I gave my daughter unto him, for he sought to slay me. Thus did he slander him, because he was desirous of his kingdom. Wherefore he took his daughter from him, and gave her to Demetrius, and forsook Alexander, so that their hatred was openly known.
Fucker.
Yeah.
Then Ptolemy entered into Antioch. I got problems there.
Yep.
Where he set 2 crowns upon his head, the crown of Asia, and of Egypt. In the mean season was King Alexander in Cilicia. I was going to say Cecilia. Wonder how she feels about that.
Yeah.
Whereupon those that dwelt in those parts had revolted from him. But when Alexander heard of this, he came to war against him, whereupon King Ptolemy brought forth his host, and met him with a mighty power, and put him to flight.
Okay, well, but so what the hell does this have to do with Jonathan? Because Alexander, I just don't understand why we've suddenly changed lead characters.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
So Alexander fled into Arabia, there to be defended, but King Ptolemy was exalted. For Zabdiel the Arabian took off Alexander's head and sent it unto Ptolemy. King Ptolemy also died the 3rd day after, and they that were in the strongholds were slain of one another. So, let's see here. The king gets the head of Alexander. He dies, and then everybody in his kingdom just starts slaughtering one another.
I'm surprised there's anybody alive at this point. These guys are killing those guys, and those guys are killing... And then... wait a minute. Zabdiel the Arabian took off Alexander's head? I mean, come on. Everybody's dead.
Yeah.
He dies, she dies, they all die.
It's like Hamlet.
Only worse.
Yeah, much worse. Not nearly as well written.
By this means, Demetrius reigned in the 167th year. At this time, Jonathan gathered together them that were in Judea to take the tower that was in Jerusalem, and he made many engines of war against it. Then came ungodly persons, who hated their own people, went unto the king, and told him that Jonathan besieged the tower.
But I thought the tower was already Jonathan's.
Yeah, snitches get stitches.
Whereof, when he heard, he was angry, and immediately removing, he came to Ptolemaeus, and wrote unto Jonathan that he should not lay siege to the tower, but come and speak with him at Ptolemaeus in great haste. Nevertheless, Jonathan, when he heard this, commanded to besiege it still, and he chose certain of the elders and the priests, and put himself in peril. And took silver and gold and raiment and divers presents besides, and went to Ptolemaeus under the king, where he found favor in his sight. Well, yeah, that's what I mean, I'm sorry, but if I'm going after a guy whose tower I'm attacking that somehow was supposed to be mine, I'm not bringing old people in silver.
Gold and new clothes. And though certain ungodly men of the people had made complaints against him, yet the king entreated him as his predecessors had done, and promoted him in the sight of all his friends, and confirmed him in the high priesthood and in all the honors that he had before, and gave him preeminence among his chief friends. Okay, so he got a promotion.
Sounds like it. Then Jonathan desired the king that he would make Judea free from tribute. But they said earlier it was free from tribute. As also the 3 governments with the country of Samaria, and he promised him 300 talents. Which is another form.
It's another unit of measurement.
Yeah.
Let me dig up my ESV. It's a talent is like a shit ton.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like...
Could even be a metric fuck ton. Where the hell is it? There was a table of weights and measurements in here somewhere. A talent was about 20 years' pay for a worker, or 60 minas. Mina is about 3 months' pay for a worker, or 50 shekels. Ooh, 50 shekels.
Oh.
What's a shekel?
Well, according to the...
Or 11 grams.
Well, according to the Googles, some authorities say that the talent weighed about 33 kilograms, aka 75 pounds for those of us in the primitive parts of the world, varying from 20 to 40 kilograms.
I'm not digging the error bars here.
Yeah, so in February 2016, the international price of gold was about US $1,200 per troy ounce. 1 gram costs about $38. At this price, a talent of 33 kilograms would be worth about $1.25 million.
Ooh! And he had how many talents?
That's a good question.
That was a shit
300.
300 talents.
Yeah, so that's...
It's a fair chunk.
Yeah.
I could retire on that.
I could retire on one. I mean, that's $375 million.
Oh, easily. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh. Where are we at?
I think it's still me. Or is it? Yeah, I don't. Well, I'll just do 29 and 30, and then you can go from there.
All right.
So the king consented and wrote letters unto Jonathan of all these things after this manner. King Demetrius unto his brother Jonathan, and unto the nation of the Jews, sendeth greeting.
Sendeth greeting. We send you here a copy of the letter which we did write unto our cousin Lasthenes, concerning you, that ye might see it. King Demetrius unto his father Lasthenes sendeth greeting. We are determined to do good to the people of the Jews, who are our friends, and keep covenants with us because of their goodwill toward us.
Wherefore we have ratified unto them the borders of Judea, with the 3 governments of Ephraim and Lydda, not Lydia, Lydda, and Ramathaim, all places we've never heard of before, that are added unto Judea from the country of Samaria, and all things appertaining unto them, for all such as do sacrifice in Jerusalem, instead of the payments which the king received of them yearly aforetime out of the fruits of the earth and the trees. But we've already established they didn't have to cough this shit up. And as for the other things that belong unto us, of the tithes and customs pertaining unto us, as also the salt pits and the crown taxes which are due unto us, we discharge them of them all for their relief, and nothing hereof shall be revoked from this time forth forever.
No taxation without representation.
Yeah, but this is all... They did this in the last chapter, so why are they doing it again? I do not understand.
I don't know. I'm really confused. It seems to be the same stuff over and over. I can hardly get back to the killing with swords and the burning with fire shit.
Yeah.
And therefore, see that thou make a copy of these things, and let it be delivered unto Jonathan, and set upon the holy mount in a conspicuous place. After this, when King Demetrius saw that the land was quiet before him, and that no resistance was made against him, he sent away all his forces, every one to his own place, except certain bands of strangers, whom he had gathered from the isles of the heathens. Wherefore all the forces of his fathers hated him. Alright. This town needs an enema.
Yeah.
Moreover, there was one Tryphon, that had been of Alexander's Partifor, who, seeing that all the host murmured against Demetrius, went to Simalcu? The Arabian. Went to Simalcu, the Arabian that brought up Antiochus, the young son of Alexander.
And so we're going to get more familial genocide, it looks like. And lay sore upon him to deliver this young Antiochus, that he might reign in his father's stead. He told him, therefore, all that Demetrius had done, and how his men of war were at enmity with him, and there he remained a long season. In the meantime, Jonathan sent unto King Demetrius that he would cast those of the tower out of Jerusalem, and those also in the fortress, for they fought against Israel. So Demetrius sent unto Jonathan, saying, I will not only do this for thee and thy people, but I will greatly honor thee and thy nation if opportunity serve.
Now therefore thou shalt do well if thou send me men to help me, for all my forces are gone from me. Upon this Jonathan sent him 3,000 strong men into Antioch. I wonder how Antioch felt about that.
Yeah.
And when they came to the king was very glad of their coming.
Bukkake!
Phrasing. Howbeit, they that were of the city gathered themselves together in the midst of the city to the number of 120,000 men, and would have slain the king.
Yeah, I'm going to send you my buddies, and suddenly they're going to, multiply by 60 times or some shit, 40 times, and they're going to kill you. Wherefore the king fled into the court, but they of the city kept the passages of the city and began to fight. Then the king called to the Jews for help, who came unto him, Bukkake, all at once. Bukkake. That's definitely a Bukkake thing. And dispersing themselves through the city that day in the city to the number of 100,000. Also they set fire on the city and gat many spoils that day and delivered the king. I did not know the king was pregnant.
Oh my goodness. That whole bit just sounded wrong.
Yeah, there's not really a good way you can interpret that.
So when they of the city saw that the Jews had got the city as they would, their courage was abated. Wherefore they made supplication to the king and cried, saying, Grant us peace, and let the Jews cease from assaulting us and the city. With that they cast away their weapons and made peace, and the Jews were honored in the sight of the king and in the sight of all that were in his realm, and they returned to Jerusalem, having great spoils.
Now, me personally, if I was the king, I'd be like, okay, I would just look at the Jews and say, you kill all those motherfuckers now. I don't trust them sons of bitches. Just wipe them the fuck out.
Yeah, they keep doing that.
Yeah. So Demetrius sat on the throne of his kingdom, and the land was quiet before him. Nevertheless, he dissembled in all that ever he spake, and estranged himself from Jonathan. Neither rewarded he him according to the benefits which he had received of him, but troubled him very sore. Well, we can see where this is going to end up. After this returned Tryphon, and with him the young child Antiochus, who reigned and was crowned. So how did Antiochus become king?
I don't know. I'm not into Game of Thrones.
Nor am I.
Then there gathered unto him all the men of war, whom Demetrius had put away, and they fought against Demetrius, who turned his back and fled.
When danger reared its ugly head, Demetrius bravely turned his tail and fled.
Yeah, brave Sir Robin. Moreover, Tryphon took the elephants and won Antioch. At that time, young Antiochus wrote unto Jonathan, saying, I confirm thee in the high priesthood, and appoint thee ruler over the 4 governments, and to be one of the king's friends. Wait a minute. Last time I was only 3 fucking governments.
Yeah, and so somehow he's gained another one. And, you know, at this point, I'd just be like, I've gotten a dozen of these letters before. I'm whacking all you bastards. I'm not, because I know what happens next. You're nice to me for a couple of weeks, and then you decide you got to kill him. Upon this, he sent him golden vessels to be served in, and gave him leave to drink in gold, and to be clothed in purple, and to wear a golden buckle. But he already has that. His brother Simeon also he made captain from the place called the Ladder of Tyrus unto the borders of Egypt. Then Jonathan went forth and passed through the cities beyond the water, and all the forces of Syria gathered themselves unto him for to help him. And when he came to Ascalon, they of the city met him honorably. I'm not understanding any of this.
Met him honorably. From whence he went to Gaza, and they of Gaza shut him out. Wherefore he laid siege unto it, and burned the suburbs thereof with fire, and spoiled them. Afterward, when they of Gaza made supplication unto Jonathan, he made peace with them, and took the sons of their chief men for hostages, and sent them to Jerusalem, and passed through the country unto Damascus. Now when Jonathan heard that Demetrius's princes were come to Cades, which is in Galilee, with a great power, purposing to remove him out of the country,
he went to meet them, and left Simon his brother in the country. Then Simon encamped against Bethsura, and fought against it a long season, and shut it up. But they desired to have peace with him, which he granted them, and then put them out from thence, and took the city, and set a garrison in it.
As for Jonathan and his host, they pitched at the water of Genesar, from whence betimes in the morning they gat them to the plain of Nasor. And behold, the host of strangers met them in the plain, who, having laid men in ambush for him in the mountains, came themselves over against him. So when they that lay in ambush rose out of their places and joined battle, all that were of Jonathan's side fled. Wait, Jonathan's side is a chicken shit?
Yeah,
it's a gag or what?
Yes, they're just flipping around and doing all kinds of crazy shit.
I don't know, it's a trap.
Yeah. Insomuch as there was not one of them left, except Mattathias, the son of Absalom, and Judas, the son of Calphi, the captains of the host. Then Jonathan rent his clothes, and cast earth upon his head, and prayed. Afterwards, turning again to battle, he put them to flight, and so they ran away. Wait, so 3 dudes defeated an entire army?
It's ridiculous.
Take the last 2, and then we'll call it a night.
Now, when his own men that were fled away, they turned again unto him, and with him pursued them to Cades, even unto their own tents, and there they camped. So they were slain of the heathens that day about 3,000 men, but Jonathan returned to Jerusalem. Seriously?
Who's alive? Who's dead? I have no idea.
None at all. There seems to be an awful lot of killing and dying, and I'm really having a hard time keeping up with the plot here.
You're not the only one. It's just, it's nonsensical. It doesn't make any sense at all.
None. It's. I could get a better story out of the Deepak Chopra generator.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it for this episode of The Atheist in the Trailer Park Podcast. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, as well as just about anywhere else podcasts can be found. Many of the episodes are also on YouTube. Follow the show on Twitter. @TParkAtheist is the show's Twitter handle. It's on Facebook at facebook.com/trailerparkatheist.com. If you happen to like the podcast, please rate it on iTunes. If you'd like to support the podcast, there's a donate button on the show notes page. You can support it via Patreon at patreon.com/TNTucker. Thanks for listening.
Say goodnight, Fuzz-Nuts.
All I know is this violates every canon of respectable broadcasting.
Damned cat.